in the New York City area, there's only one man who's known as the Gabby Cabby, and his name is Peter Franklin, and he's on the line right now. Good morning, Peter.
Good morning, live from the streets of New York.
So I cannot help but the way this morning has been going. And maybe you don't know anything about this story, but there was a New York Times story that states that Melania Trump, the First Lady of the United States, refuses to share a bed with the president. And I know your love for the New York Times. I cannot imagine that you do not have something to say and some knowledge on this story.
Well, I got to tell you something. The Daily News, the Post, and the Times just don't quit. I mean, they go on and on and on. And, of course, this is the latest thing. And it's hard to tell who started it because it's in all three newspapers. You know, normally one of them comes out, and then there's maybe like 15 minutes until it's picked up by the other, newspapers or something. It's just unbelievably stupid. Their circulation is down on all three newspapers. And I think what they're trying to do is just scrounge around for anything they want. And what better target do we have in American society right now than Trump? Donnie is just, forget about the politics and the Obamacare and what have you. What a great guy to pick on.
What I find is you're wanting to be taken seriously, that you're giving, and I know they have different sections of the paper, and some are a little more entertainment-like or Enquirer-like, but at the same time, you want to be taken seriously. Why go with a story like that? I don't think it helps your cause.
Well, do you remember there once was a brief flurry where they just kind of, and I'm embarrassed to bring this up, implied that there was some relationship between him and his daughter?
Right. Yeah.
So, all the news that fit the print is not so news that fit the print.
Hey, JFK, something you might not know if you fly out of JFK. First of all, you get better prices, believe it or not, when you fly out of New York City. I was looking to fly out of Denver. Flights were like $600. I looked at flights out of JFK, and it's like $220 to fly out of JFK. So there is a real advantage to sometimes driving to New York City and flying out of there. But there's things about JFK that you wouldn't know, like it almost has its own zoo inside the airport, right?
Yeah, that's what they've just set up, which is an interesting thing. They've always had to transport animals, and they move them, and of course everybody knows if you're having a little pooch transported someplace, you want it to have the best care.
Right.
Well, they've set up a full, almost qualified zoo at JFK, and what happens now if you should happen to be shipping your favorite giraffe, instead of just being put in a box like Walmart guy, it goes into a real modern, nice facility. I think it would be nice if they would let the public just go in. What a wonderful way to spend on Sunday, saying, hey, let's go to the zoo at JFK, but they haven't decided to do that yet.
Well, and I think people would people are very serious about when they're taking their dogs or their animals and flights. It's very, very important that they're taken care of. Now they have a little home once they get there. It's kind of cool,
and it's a very expensive proposition for anybody who's ever shipped any kind of an animal,
right?
Especially dogs and cats and things. If you're not taking them into the passenger section, But I don't know if I still was in the pet mode, I'd be leery about turning my my pet over to a. It's one thing to give it to a taxi driver, but never a pilot.
Well, they can't keep your they can't keep your luggage safe. How are they going to keep your pet safe?
It's just thousands and thousands of bags. Some are going to get
they're going to get lost.
Fingers.
FBI listening in on phone conversations. We'll be hearing a lot of this over the Trump issue, but and the Russian mob and all of this. That's what's going on in New York City right now.
Yeah, well, but, they're making such a big deal about this wiretap and how it has to go to court and it's this thing and that thing. The technology of it is there. I mean, you could walk into, I know this is a wild statement to make, but I'm almost sure of it completely, that you could walk into almost any building in New York City, and if you're the regular lineman, let's say, you could put a tap on it in 2 seconds. So the fact that they're talking about this safeguard and that safeguard, I don't buy that. I think if you went into my building and you went into my telephone utility area, chances are there could be somebody tapping this conversation, so you better be careful of what you're saying. It's not that big a deal.
Federal agents, I'm wondering, we keep hearing talk around the country about agents and deporting illegal immigrants and going after those that are criminals especially. Are you seeing that in New York City?
Well, what they're doing is there's a much more hiding out. Before, people would talk about it and they'd sign up for this and they'd sign up for that and everything. But now the illegals, after the initial shock, are being very careful about, come on in and sign out for a free museum ticket, or come on in and get extra something at this or that or the other thing. No, they're very, very wary. And now occasionally you see ICE cars marked with ICE on them, the immigration, whatever it is. Whereas before, you never saw that.
Right,
It's like, look, do we have ICE agents? Where are they? Also, the other thing is we got a lot more cops in New York City because for some reason, Governor Cuomo is sending in your state troopers to us, which I don't really figure out the logic. And the cops here are kind of resenting it a little bit. It's not that they don't have a right to come into the city.
Right,
obviously, they do. But, who needs a state cop from Ithaca, in the Bronx?
Right. Yeah. Well, there you have it. All the details on Peter's website. It's Gabby.com. Best tour in New York City. Peter, thanks. Enjoy the week. We'll talk to you next week.
You too. Bye-bye.
Quick break at WIBX.